I'm John B. Jackson Jr. I was born April 16th, 1931 in Carthage, Texas, Panola County. And my parents moved to Marshall, Texas so we could get a better education in high school. And yes, that's what, after graduating from high school, I was inducted into the service, U.S. Army in October 1951.
What did you think about that?
I was scared. I was afraid. I had brothers that was and uncles that was in service before me, and they had told war stories. So I was afraid because I did not want to go to war.
Did you know where you were going to be stationed, or where they were going to have you sent?
No, no.
Never
When I was receiving my papers, I went to Shreveport, Louisiana, to be sworn in, and we left there. I went to Camp Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I got my first rationing of clothing. And then I was awakened about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we was put on an airplane, the first flight of my life. I was scared, so I was nervous and all. And we left there, went to Camp Roberts, California, to take basic training, which is Baker 77 Company. After my training, after finishing my basic training, we was in line to be sent out to where they was sending the soldiers, and my name came up. Others in front of me came up, went to Germany, Alaska, and mine came up to go to the Far East, but I did not know what that meant. I knew it was somewhere Japan, Hawaii, and stuff like that. So I ended up going to, when I got to San Francisco, California, and then put on the ship, and so we were shipped out. One of the things that got me in this tour was when we got on the General Breckinridge going overseas. Everyone was drawing that evening when we left the dock, and we came up to the Golden Gate Bridge, and that is when I realized that I was leaving the United States, and myself and many others of the soldiers on the ship just started crying because we were young, we were scared, and we was leaving America. And I never left America before. I'd gone from Texas to Louisiana or Arkansas. But as far as leaving the country, this was my first experience. So everybody was crying. So that was the other thing was, I guess being from the country, Marshall, Texas, I saw the sun rise in the trees and it set in the trees beyond. But out there, it rose in the water, over the water, and it set in the water. So I did not understand that. That was a learning thing for me.
Something you'd never seen before.
I'd never seen it before. Yeah, yes, I'd never been to Galveston to see the water, see the sun, and it's the same thing. But yeah, okay.
So at the time of your deployment, you knew you were going somewhere in the east?
Right, right.
So did you have any idea where exactly you were going?
No, I did not know where we were going until we got to Sasebo, Japan, and they mustered us out then, and I was going to Korea. Some stayed in Japan, and some of my buddies stayed in Japan, and we were sent to Korea.
So you were drafted in 1951.
1951,
So
October 1951.
So did you know already that there was a war going on in Korea at all?
Well, yes, but we didn't pay that much attention to it. It wasn't because I didn't think that I would go for whatever reason. It wasn't that I didn't want to go and serve my country, but I did not ever think about going. My brother-in-law was out of World War II, and he's talked to me all the time. But my brother was in the Navy. My brother was in the Navy, and then I was drafted in the Army. But I didn't realize the I wasn't interested in going in service, even though I had classmates that had volunteered in service, but it wasn't of my interest. I just wanted to work.
So whenever you got news you're going to Korea, had you...
In Sasebo, they issued us our paperwork to go, and I was going to Korea. So when I got to Incheon, they got my assignment to go to this. I was assigned to the 2nd Division, 23rd Infantry Regiment, 4.2 Mortar Company. And as I stated earlier, that I was afraid. I had prayed that I would get in something that was other than the infantry, where I had to walk and go up on the front lines. Well, I was assigned to 4.2 Mortar Company, which is just in front of artillery. And we had to use the truck to move it around. So I was blessed, I thought, to get in that kind of company. And that's what I did, my tour of duty in Korea. I was in 4.2 Mortar Company.
Mm-hmm. Where were you being stationed at in Korea?
Where? I was in the Chalwan Valley, up on the front lines. There. I had 3 months of combat time up there. So I did serve on the front line. And I was on the front line the day of the treaty was signed. And that was a joy. I thought I'd only been in Korea 4 months. But I thought when they signed the treaty, I was coming home. But I did not have enough points to rotate home. So I had to stay I stayed a total of 15 months, and better than 15 months in Korea. So
So can you tell me a little bit about the front line and how that was, and kind of the weapons that you used? And
okay, I was trained as an infantryman, but when I got assigned to my company in Korea, was the 4.2 Mortar Company. I was assigned a 45, and that was my weapon, basically, when I was on my tour, because as I was a truck driver, I probably had an M1 then, a carbine. Then I moved up to ammo bearer, which had a 45. Then I made a gunner. I made gunner. When I made gunner, that's for carrying up. So my weapons, as far as me carrying a weapon, was a 45. But I never had to use it any time, except for training only.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you never had to engage in any serious battles?
When you say serious battles, I was in serious battles because I was a mortar company. We supported. So we did have different attacks that we had to support the infantry. The other part, the F Company, Able Company, that they need support of the French or the Ethiopians. We supported, gave them support fire as they was doing their up on the front lines fighting. They did the walking and stuff like that, getting the enemy out of the rocks or the holes or wherever they were. I did not have to move. That was my thing. My weapons stayed stationary, and we, as we put on different charges, we would sit the round would go the distance that we wanted it to go, and that's what it was. So I was lucky enough to be in a company that I was. But my first thing when I got to Korea, I was assigned to 4.2 Mortar Company. I went through a few days of training and a couple of weeks of training, and then we went to a USO show, and we were sitting there, and they called for the 4.2 Mortar Company to rush to the vehicles and go back to the company you needed immediately. This was the time we got back to the company from the USO show, in the middle of it, and then we was told we was going to the front line to relieve the 3rd Division. And so that's my first experience. Now that's when I was afraid. But I forgot to say one thing about being afraid. When we arrived in Korea in Incheon, it was in the barracks that night. they woke us up early that morning to get us out and send us up to our assigned company. When I went out to outside, they had a tree with a parachute hanging in it, and they had said that an enemy had broke the line, and they were looking for him in that area. So that really did frighten me out seeing. But I know we wasn't on the front line, so I was wondering how bad was it, because if they can get back here, we are going to the front line. That was scary to me.
Did they ever find this guy, or I mean?
Well, I think it was a hoax.
Oh, a hoax. It was a joke.
It was a joke. They're trying to intimidate us so we make us strong, I guess. Yeah, part of the training.
So what was your first initial impression whenever you arrived into Korea? What did you think about the country and the people? And
well, I did not have too much contact with the community people, because when I got to Korea in 53, it was torn up, it was raggedy, it was war-torn, and it was some families, it was some family people walking around, but I did not come in contact with them. Some people did come in contact with them because they learned to speak the language, and I wanted to serve my time and get back to the United States.
You said that you arrived into Korea in 53?
53, yes, April 53.
April. Earlier you mentioned that you were being stationed and you were working with people from, say, Ethiopia. Can you tell me a little bit about the relationships that you had with foreign troops?
The French was TDY to the 2nd Division, the Ethiopian was TDY to the 2nd Division, and the Iraq Army was TDY to. So we worked with all those 3 countries with the United States, so 4 countries that were working together with the 2nd Division. And it was all over Korea, where the 21 nations were involved. And that's how so I didn't have too much contact with them, except seeing them and waving at them. But as far as, but I would see them on a daily basis. But we never. They had that company, they did that thing. We had our company. I was TDY to the French for about 3 days, where I went on Joe truck, delivered stuff for them. I went to picked up something like that, but it wasn't a long-term thing. It was just a TDY for 3 days. Then I came back to my company.
Can you explain to the audience what that means?
Well, TDY, temporary duty with another outside of your company, so they call it TDY, temporary duty.
About how many people were in each company?
We had four in my company, 23rd Regiment, 4.2 Mortar Company. We have four platoons, and it's 7 to 10 soldiers in a squad. And it's you got 4 platoons, and you have 4 squads in each platoon. It's
a lot of people.
Yes.
So tell me about the living conditions, having to stay in the barracks with that many people.
Well, we lived with each other. It was where soldiers live. You have you look out for each other. I did not have anything wrong with their living. We lived. When we went on the front line, we built our bunker, where we didn't live in tents, because we had took sandbags and large timbers and made houses out of them. A bunker, they call them bunkers, and that's what we lived in those. So it was a safe environment for me. So that's why I just feel sorry for the infantrymen, because they had to stay in tents and they had to walk everywhere, and they had all their backpack and everything, all their gear, and it was. I did not have to go through that. If we moved somewhere, we moved by truck, so that was a good thing about it. We didn't have to carry anything on a long distance, except I was picking up our rounds and from wherever they were stored, bring them to the, for to be fired.
What was the food like?
Yeah, I've almost forgotten how it was, but we had some hot and had a lot of rationing. Then it was a C rationing, K rationing, and I've almost forgotten what it was like. But it was, I think we was talking about it. The food that I did enjoy was when it was hot food, it was the corned beef. No, the K ration was corned beef hash. Once you got the grease off of it, because it was cold, and you get that off there, then you had a pretty good tasting food then because it's sitting over there. And the other food was, it was normal food to us because it was what they were serving us. We had, I forget the main dish. It was I forget the name of that.
That's all right.
Uh-huh.
That's all right. Do you recall about how much you were getting paid?
I did a write-up on my pay. No, I was getting, when I was discharged, I wrote up the other day, my discharge pay was $215 and $80 for traveling. That was my total pay so when I was overseas, I had I got married, and I had a son. I married a lady from Freeport, Texas. I came down to go to work there after I finished high school. I met her, and 2 years later we got married in 1953. So
y'all got married after you returned home from Korea?
No, I was still there. I did a tour. I got emergency leave to come home, and because my son was born in 1953, and we got married he was born in May 18th, 1953, and my wife and I was married because she got pregnant before I went to Korea. So when they went to Korea, I couldn't come home, so I was able to come home after the ceasefire, and we got married August the 20th, 1953.
And your son was
And then
born?
I went back to Korea.
What day was your son born?
May the 18th, 1953. We was married August the 20th, 1953, because I was in Korea. After I found out she was pregnant, I was in Korea then, so that was my big thing.
Were you able to keep in close contact with her
Very
while you were
much
in
so.
Korea?
Yes, yes.
Were you able to exchange letters pretty easily?
We did exchange. I'm sorry I did not save my letters. I think I have one letter at home that we our contact letter that we yeah.
So you mentioned you were there the day that you were on the front line whenever the armistice was signed.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that day and maybe how you felt or others felt?
The day before, which is 24th, we had rapid fire most of the 24th day, all of the 24th night, and we just ran out of rounds. When I say rounds, I meant our shells. We've tried to use up everything we had, throwing everything at the enemy that night. And then the next morning, the 25th morning, they got the orders that ceasefire. So everybody was happy. And that's when I thought I was coming home. Everybody thought they was coming home. And that's because we said that was the end of the war. And so we was out waving at everybody, hollering and going on. So we just thought that was it. But that wasn't true with me. So I did not have the time to rotate back to the United States. So I had to stay there another 12 months. I stayed a total of over 15 months in Korea.
So after your son was born, you had to go back to Korea and
Well,
finish your rotation?
after when we were
Or,
married
sorry,
in
after you're
August.
married, yeah, excuse me.
Married in August, yes, I went back, I had a 30-day leave, and so it ended up being almost 30 days, and so I ended up going back to Korea, and that's when I went back and finished my tour of duty.
Did you fly back? Or were you on a ship that came back?
No, I flew from Korea
Mhm.
to the United States, to Dallas, Texas, totally, and then I took a ship back to Korea.
How long
Then
did
I
it-
took a ship back from Korea, so I was on the ship 3 times, and the air 1 time.
So how long was the trip by ship?
It
How many
was
days?
over, the first one on the General Breckenridge was over 30-some days, 31, 32 days, because we went, the General Breckenridge carried civilian personnel,
Mhm.
so we stopped at Hawaii, Midway, Guam, and Japan.
Wow.
That's what we did. So I had the opportunity to go pass through those countries, and that was that's what I was. It made me, I was educated to go through those countries and
Mhm.
see those, at least get an eye of those countries. So when I got back to Korea, I finished my tour of duty, and I made up to platoon sergeant, and
Were you ever wounded by any chance?
never. Only, no. We was in fire one night and loading an ammo. I got a scratch on one of my hands, and so the medic wanted to turn it in as a wound, and I refused to sign the papers because that was a scratch to me. And so it was another thing, but
Mhm.
I could have it could have been put on my record. That's what only thing I did not get on my record. One of the things I did not get on my record is that,
Mhm.
because I just saw it as a scratch. It was a barbed wire scratch, and it had to put a bandage on it and went on about my business.
Wow.
Mhm.
So what are some, I'm sorry?
No, that was it.
Oh, so what are some maybe the most pleasant or rewarding memories that you had from your duty?
I think the most rewarding is being a African American, leaving Marshall, Texas, under the segregated, integrated life that we were living. That I ended up going to Korea. But my disappointing thing was that I was going over there. They asked, "Why are you going to Korea, Jackson?" "I'm going to fight for democracy." Then I said, "Well, Jackie, you don't have democracy in the United States. You're not treated with democracy type. What democracy speaks about.
Mhm.
The right to vote, the right to this, the right to this. I'm going over here fighting for these people, which I did not mind. I'm glad I was able to do that, because then I had to come back to the United States in 1954 and endure the segregation, the separate stuff that we had to go through as a black man, a black woman, and I just left Korea fighting for democracy. So I never did. Even today, I do not understand why that was had to be like that. I mean, I thought being a citizen of the United States, born in the United States, that I was would have that. I should have had that right
Mhm.
then, when I was going over there in Korea fighting for the right to democracy over there, because I did not want to see communists, that's for sure. So I didn't. It wasn't a joy, but it was my duty as a citizen of the United States to see if I could do something to help. That was
Did the war impact you in any way after you returned home?
Yes and no, but yes, basically the war, going into service, being from Marshall, Texas, a country boy, I was able to go to see large cities, meet different people that probably I never would have met from Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, California, Oregon, Alaska, all races of people, all from all different parts of the country. I was able to do this, and we all got along. We all was making. That's what I did not understand. Why we had to have such a separatism and the thing. And so, yes, what I learned out of that, I was able to get educated in traveling and singing something, and still being able to. This soldier was. I was taught I could accomplish something, and being John B. Jackson, and not no one can take it away from me. I was I'm a soldier now, and you can't take this away from me now.
Did you stay in the service after your tour in Korea?
No, I did not. I came back to Freeport, Texas with my wife and son, and I started back to work at Dow Chemical Plant,
Mm-hmm.
and that was my old job. And I was there one day and went into a mag sale in Lake Jackson, and I got between the magnetic field, and it kicked me out. When I was the magnetic field, it throws me out, and I falls and wash it with this water. It frightened me. I thought I was in Korea. So I went outside and told my foreman, which was named JB, I said, JB, I quit. He said, why? I said, man, look, I went to Korea and wasn't killed. I'm not going to die in this plant here in Lake Jackson, Texas. So I came home and I told my wife, I just quit working. She said, well, what you going to do now? I said, I don't know. That weekend, her sister came in from Houston, and I was telling her about what happened. She said, what you want to do now? She said, why don't you go to school? We'll use your GI Bill. So we agreed, my wife and I agreed to come to Houston from Freeport, Texas, to go to Texas Southern University. And that's when I got involved in Texas Southern University. And sitting in class one day, one of my classmates said, Jackson, what are you doing after class? I said, nothing. I had a car. She said, well, you can take me to the VA hospital. I said, yes. I took out there. She took the test. While I was sitting there, the nurse, chief nurse, she came by. I said, are you a veteran? I said, yes, ma'am, I'm a veteran. She said, well, we need some men out here. I said, I don't want to work in a hospital. So but she talked to me that day, and within the 2 or 3 hours that she took the test, the lady was taking the test. And I did take the test, and I passed it. So I was employed in 1957 at the Veteran Hospital. And then I stayed from 57 through 65 as a nursing aide at the VA hospital in Houston.
What were you initially going to school for?
Industrial education. I majored in industrial education. I was a television repairman, radio and TV repairman. Mm-hmm. That's what I was. Then we had television, we had tubes, and it wasn't resistors. Resistors came a few days later, but it was in the tube era. So we had tube television. So that's what we was working with that. So I worked at the VA hospital 9.5 years. I went to the U.S. Post Office, and I stayed there for 25 years and retired in 1986 from the U.S. Post Office. So I have 35 civil service time.
Wow. So have you been back to Korea at all?
No, and they were at our meeting 2 weeks ago. They was giving away 4 tickets for revisit Korea to veteran. And I wouldn't take the ticket because I am afraid of flying. I'm scared of flying. I am scared of flying. So I did not want to go. My wife said, well, you don't take the ticket. Well, I didn't want to do it. And by the way, my wife and I have been married 63 years.
Oh my goodness,
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we've been together ever since.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And,
how many children?
We had this one son,
Mm-hmm.
and in 1972, he was going into his junior year at Howard University, and he was driving back, and they had an accident in Arkansas, and right out of Memphis, Tennessee there, and he lasted 7 hours.
I'm very sorry to hear that. How old was he?
20. Yeah.
And he was
Well,
good?
he was 19, man, he was 19 years old. So we lost him, and it's just me and she and I, the rest of the way. So we made it this far. Uh-huh.
My heart goes out to you. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing. So, in your opinion, the Korean War is often referred to as the Forgotten War.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? Where do you think it got that title?
You know, I did a write-up, And in my write-up, I was stating when I left Marshall, Texas, I saw my daddy. My father waved, and that was the only somebody was there for me when I went to war. When I left San Francisco, the Red Cross gave me a cup of coffee and a donut. Nobody was there to say bye. When I returned from a tour of Korea in Washington, Seattle, Washington, there was no one there to welcome me. When I got to El Paso, Texas, and was discharged, I had no one there to say thank you or anything like that. And so when I got back home, my first thing was, when I got off the train in Houston, Texas, and I was going to Trailway Bus to go to Freeport, Texas, which is the train, between the train station and the bus station is only 7 blocks. In 1954, that cost by cab should have been less than 35 cents. The driver of the cab charged me $10. So that was a good welcome back to Houston Falls. After some years, I didn't realize it. After some years, I realized we were talking at the VA hospital, and they told me, said, "Jackie, you were gypped." And then I realized what had happened. After getting on the bus and getting off in Angleton, Texas, at 1 o'clock in the morning, I had to go I had to walk the other 15 miles to Freeport, Texas. And it was 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and a sheriff drove up to me and said, "Where are you going, boy?" Well, I had my little uniform on, and I had my little ditty bag. And I said, "I just got out of the army," and said that I'm on my way to Freeport to my wife and son. And he said, "Well, if I didn't have to go on this emergency trip, I would take you down there." So he left. He came up to me without a light on, and he left me without a light on. I want to figure out, if he was on emergency, why he did not have a light on, either approaching me or leaving me. But it was just irritating. It wasn't a welcome thing for me. It was something that harassment to me, that he just urged me to think about what that night, what that old sheriff did. At that time of morning, being a black man walking through Angleton, Texas, which is a rare thing, you're not supposed to, but it was, you could be easily accused of something like that, or suspicious or something. But when I told him I just got out of the army, maybe that eased his thinking a little bit. I don't know, but I did not have a welcome. So when I got everywhere I would go, say, "Hey JB, how are you doing?" Fine. So, "Man, where you been?" I said, "Been in the army." "Oh man, I thought you was out of town somewhere." I had neighbors and friends that did not to welcome me. So by starting on working at the Veteran Hospital, we did not talk about our tours of duty. Maybe every once in a while somebody would say something about a veteran or something, but we did not talk about it, pressing ourselves. Then going into the post office, all my supervisors were veterans. We did not discuss it. In 1991. They organized the Texas Lone Star chapter. They wanted to organize the Texas Lone Star chapter of Korean War veterans. I called that number and I went to the first meeting, and I've been active with them ever since. And that's since '91. My wife have learned more about the Korean War. I heard me say more about the Korean War than I did from 1954 until 1991, because I didn't talk. I didn't say nothing. I didn't want to discuss it, because it was. I was glad I was glad to be a veteran. I was glad I served my country, but I didn't want to talk about it. So to hear people say it's a forgotten war, it really hurts me being a veteran of the Korean War. And when you call it a conflict, I said, I was shot at. I had rounds. I had my buddies. I have 4 classmates that was killed in Korea. So I can't say conflict. It had to be a war, because Conflicts is something else. That means you have a little argument and you shut out. An argument, you know, throw sticks and bricks at each other. But we was throwing rounds, all the rounds we had, napalm, everything else we had, we threw it at the enemy. So it was a war, as any other war to me. So when it's say forgotten war, it's not a forgotten war to us, but to you it might have been a forgotten war. You don't want to think of it as a forgotten war. And our heroes of the Korean War is just as important as the heroes of today, our heroes of 1919 and 1902, and that's just a mess.
What do you think that we need to do to put a closure on the war? Because technically we're still in a war. It was just a ceasefire. What do you think that we need to do to put a closure on it and to end the hostility?
We went in to fight for democracy, and that's what we need. Since we still believe in democracy, this is what we need to be pushing now more than 1950, 1954. When I say 50, that's the duration of the war. That's what we went in there for, 1950, trying to fight for democracy. We failed as a participant in the war to not to accomplish that goal. It just never was accomplished. And I think that our political field have failed us for not doing something to end it, because we're still under the ceasefire signed documents now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's important for younger generations to know and understand of the sacrifices and contributions made during the Korean War?
Yes, that is one of the things with the Texas Lone Star chapter that we was doing, and we used to visit all the schools that would invite us, and we would go out and stay a whole day with them, and we would use periods. Students would come into either the classroom or the chapel, and we would explain them as a veteran what our life, from when we were children up until we were today, whatever that day was, what we were doing at that day, when we retired, or when we were working in the steel mill, or whatever. So,
why do you think it's important for them to know?
History. Number one, I believe in history, and I believe history should be told, should be written, and should be told. So because if you I'm looking at history as history of wide earth. Why you keep writing the history of wide earth? We're not riding horses now, but you still tell the story of it. You tell, it's a history thing. When America was discovered, we're still telling the story of that. And I think that any event that has a history life to it should stay alive rather than burying it in the back closet like the Korean War. They wanted to bury it in the back closet. But that was a real war. You had real people. We had on our memorial in Austin, Texas, on the Capitol ground, our memorial, we have over 1,700 Texans that was killed in Korea. So it wasn't a plaything. It's one of those things where I just can't. I think history should be taught, and when you teach history, teach good history. Don't teach bad history. Now you know, because I think we have people that are writers can write the good part of history, which is a good part. Now you can write some bad history too, but I think that history should be taught. So and our younger generation should be taught more of it, so that maybe they will not have to go through the Vietnam type stuff, or the World War II, or the Korean War, or World War I type stuff. They would find a new way, educate them to find a new way to solve a problem when we have to endure that.
I agree. Do you have anything else that you would like to share to preserve your legacy? At all, any memories or messages?
And my message is, I'm proud. I am a veteran. I'm proud I served my country, and I'm proud to see the changes that have changed since 1931 when I was born, up until today.
And we thank you for your service.
ma'am.
Thank you. I said we thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for coming in and talking to me.
Yes, ma'am.